here, like, I'm not a permanent member of this committee, but when I heard that there was leader companies coming in here this morning, I am particularly interested. I suppose I've worked for 13 years in community development, and I'm very familiar with the leader programme. And I want to set out what I say in terms of what I think of the major mistakes that have been made, whether they have been made by design or by accident, in terms of how the leader programme is being rolled out for this. I'm not going to talk about the money for a minute, and I think this committee needs to play a role in a proper evaluation on how things are being done under the local authorities. And I'm talking about the mistake of bringing them all under the local authorities, under the all-powerful might of the CEOs of the local authorities. The way the leader model, the leader model in Ireland was a model of best practice that was recognised throughout Europe. It was recognised because it fully fulfilled the subsidiarity role that runs through all the European projects, and the way that it built capacities in communities. And it built capacity in communities, in individuals, in families, in whole communities for a number of years until it started to be interfered with. I want to commend the work that was done, that's been done all throughout this country through the leader projects in the National Rural Development Programme. Who, I don't know, saw fit to change the model so that it would come under the structure of the local authorities. Hundreds and hundreds of people gathered around the country, packed out halls. I was at several of them myself, where the ordinary people on the ground and the volunteers and workers who had worked for years pleaded with the department and pleaded with those who were making the decisions not to go down the route that they were going down under the LCDCs. We have succeeded in creating a bureaucratic nightmare in terms of the delivery of leader, as I see it. We had an excellent programme. It will not build capacity in people. It will add extra burdens onto volunteers. It will, to me, I think what's so wrong with it as well, it creates a dependency culture. The whole purpose of leader was about building the capacities and building independent community, single-minded communities. But the way it's designed at the moment, to bring it in under the political system, to create the dependency there, to have political interference in the decisions that are being made, I think is grossly wrong. And I think this is something that this committee needs to keep a very close watch on in the duration of what's been done. There's a couple of other things I just want to say on it. Have we been given the criteria for how the leader programme is going to work with CLOR, with the CLOR programme? So that's one question. Maybe that could be answered shortly, or will I go through my questions that I have?
Maybe go through other questions and then we'll seek them to be answered together. I
just would be interested in your own opinions, and I do apologise, I missed a section of the contributions that you made because I had to go and talk in the Shannon, but your own experiences of the bureaucracy that you may be facing in terms of the LCDC, and where the decisions are made now between advisory boards and everything else, whereas before they were made by people within the communities themselves. Do you find it more effective or less effective as it is? I want to ask you, and I was particularly interested around the comment of the strategic projects and the 200,000 cap. That is causing real problems for us as well in the likes of Mayo, where communities have spent several years, and I've worked with these communities myself, putting together all these projects that are really strategically important projects. They have waited and waited for a leader, and some of these projects cost between 500,000 and €1 million, whatever. So having a cap of 200,000 and then being able to say, you cannot match it with sports partnership, for instance, is causing a nightmare for people. And I can see that there will be situations there when money won't get spent because of these blockages, and I want to see if you have any solutions maybe and how that can be addressed. I would hope that the money that, I mean, it's ridiculous in the first instance when you think of it, and it's cited here, you know, in terms of the way that the budgets have been cut. 2007 to 2013, during the worst economic crisis, you know, we had way more money in the leader programs than we have now. And the likes of Mayo saying trying to operate with 9 million less than the previous programme, with less staff on the ground to work with the communities that need the extra help, where the focus it should be on and the areas that should be targeted, they are not able to do their jobs. So the announcement in the budget yesterday for extra leader funding runs hollow with me, but I do hope that whatever little money it is, that it would be used to look at that situation where you have the cap of the 200,000 there. That's okay. My 10 minutes is up. I really want to commend the work that's. By 5.
Yeah. You've 5 minutes left, yeah.
I probably don't even need 5. I want to commend the work that's done by leader groups. I want you to keep, and as leader groups, I want you to keep talking to us, telling us about the challenges and the successes that you have, and thanks for outlining some of them today. I think there was a real important role for local authorities in terms of this whole leader programme and the new programme that was coming in. We had the transnational projects where they could have played a role there in making sure that models of best practice in projects were duplicated, and that, you know, we weren't reinventing the wheel all the time, that best practice was transferred throughout the country and indeed throughout Europe itself. So there was a role there. There was a role in terms of an advisory role, but not a role in terms of having control on how the leader programmes are run. I certainly will be watching it very closely. I hope that even with the restrictions that you have in the leader programmes, that you can do some really good work and continue to do that, and that you're not trying to do it with your hands tied behind your back. So it's really just those couple of questions around your experiences of specific bureaucracy and how you think we can address situations such as the cap on the leader funding. I want to finally just say, because I cannot leave here without saying it, we were in an area in Mayo, in Erris, that were left without a leader programme for years, for many, many years. We are one of the most deprived areas in the country, and we were left without it because there was a decision made by not the last government, the previous government before that, where they decided to amalgamate all the companies within the Gaeltacht under Mehel Forbaha na Gaeltachta. And we suffered because there was governance mistakes made there, and we were left without any leader funding. That is unforgivable. That must not be let happen again, because we cannot now catch up. It is no longer acceptable for rural Ireland to be left with the crumbs from the table. We want what we deserve. We want what is targeted to us from Europe. We don't want it spread to areas where there isn't deprivation and need, as was outlined in some of these projects. We want it targeted into the areas that have been neglected and left behind. And I will work with this committee, and I know, and with yourselves, in terms of trying to make sure that that happens and we won't be fobbed off.
We have 2 minutes here. I might bring in South Kerry and Roscommon if we can as well. I know John O'Brien wants it. We have 2 minutes, so we can keep your responses as.
Chair, I just want to just on answering the bureaucracy question, and just to give an example. With the current arrangements now, the way LEADER is structured, and we're working with the local community development committee as the local action group, it will take somewhere between 6 to 8 months for a leader project to be approved, from once an expression of interest comes in to, you know, when a contract for funding will be issued. Now, that in my view is completely ridiculous if you're whether you're a community group or you're a small enterprise in a rural area looking for funding. You can't be hanging around between 6 and 8 months waiting for a decision. All right? One of the contributing factors to that is the way these administration checks are going to be done. They're called Article 48 checks. They're a requirement from the EU. It has been decided to centralise those checks at present with Pobble, and there's going to be 3 stages in the process, 3 checks. So we'll have a situation where I will have staff in the office scanning files so that somebody in Pobble can, go through and carry out the check. Now, that strikes me as very, very inefficient. And a way to rectify that and to reduce that time frame is for these checks to be done in the leader groups themselves. If there are problems in certain areas or in certain companies in doing those checks, that is something that should be dealt with on individual companies. But don't bring in a system across the board and impose that sort of level of bureaucracy on all of us. That's a very simple solution to the issue of bureaucracy.